Hear ye, here comes the judge. It is the Yogi Judge, Judge Dawson, here with another podcast aimed at giving you something to think about, something to contemplate, and hopefully something we can all use to grow. You know, I've been doing these podcasts for a little while now, and I've become used to the fact that growth is hard. Think about it. In every area of our lives, whether it's physical, mental, sometimes spiritual, definitely relational, when it's time to grow, that's when it gets difficult. That's when we want to quit, right? That's when we want to give up because it's been too hard. The struggle is too long. The weight is too heavy. But I'm telling you, friends, that's when we have to dig in and keep going. So every time I hit this podcast, I'm going to try to bring you something that can add service or inspiration or at least some information to your life. Even though I'm a judge of a real court, I don't profess to know it all. I just profess to do the best I can to share the information that I have on my bench and what comes across the courtroom. See, this is where you're going to get live and direct information on how court happens and what goes on, because I'm actually in the trenches. And it won't always be entertaining and it won't always be pretty, but it's something that can add to the value of our lives and at least give us a glimpse on the justice system. Maybe shine a light on the justice system. Maybe, pull up the curtains or the blinds and we can see how justice rolls. And through the rest of this podcast, maybe for the next few weeks, I'm going to talk about the justice system and some of the cases that are going to be coming up and how the legal system will or will not interpret those cases and what can ultimately be done to make sure that justice prevails in this wonderful country that we live in. But before I get to all of that, my topic for today is Black Lives Matter. And I can't believe that we even have to say that as a sentiment. I mean, who would have thought that that would be such a divisive statement in the world that we live in? And then, of course, the other side always says, well, all lives matter. Well, of course, all lives matter. But it's been said so many times, right now, Black lives are the ones that are in danger and the ones under attack. It's been said, and I love the analogy of the firemen running down the street to put out a fire on a specific house, and everybody's on their porch saying, hey, my house matters too. My house matters too. Well, of course, your house matters, but your house is not burning down. And I would submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that right now in this country, for Black people, it's burning. It's always been hot, and there's always been flare-ups. There's been disruptions. There have been fires, but right now there's another fire. And we have to deal with it. Why? Because we are in an advanced time of technology, of mindset, of power. Why wouldn't we address the age-old problem of racism when we have the ability to do so now? Now, if you take it back a few years, you can say, hey, you know what? The ancestors and the people back in the day, they weren't as smart. They weren't as connected. They didn't care. And I'm just using that as an excuse because it's still an inexcusable situation to be in when racism is so pervasive in our world. But let's say if we even give them that pass, how can we justify in 2020? I mean, we have so much going on. We have private companies sending people to the moon. I mean, how can we deny the fact that we have to grow in the way that we deal with each other and the way that we conduct ourselves? So when we say Black Lives Matter, it should be as a matter of fact. And no, we can't point to the few successes that we've had. And I'll tell you, the few, they turn out to be many. You have millionaire basketball players and other athletes. You had the first Black president of the United States of America. I'm a Black judge. So we're still breaking records and making news and doing things that are extraordinary. But at the same time, we still have to acknowledge that our country is in a state of dismay because we don't recognize the beauty and the worth and the value of every one of our citizens. And who would have thought it was still this way until something hits the fan, right? When the mess hits the fan, then you see how people really react. Let's take, for instance, the NASCAR situation. Let's just deal with that. Bubba Wallace prominent black driver standing up for Black Lives Matter. And all of a sudden, we see how much hate and racism still exists in the NASCAR industry. People waving the flags even though they've been denounced, coming to the track with twigs and fabric to recreate a noose. I mean, who would have thought that such ugliness could rear its head when all we ask for in 2020 is love and acceptance and the ability just to be civil? But you know what made me proud about the Bubba Wallace situation was how those 39 plus drivers pushed his car twice in support, in solidarity, to show that they stood for what was right. And in fact, the quote was, "We stand with our friend." That is the type of love and compassion that this world needs in order to get past racism. I mean, on the flip side, you have police officers who are actually quitting the force, resigning, taking leave because they'd rather do that than to stand up and say, yes, Black Lives Matter, and the way we treat black people can no longer be as if they are nothing. I won't even say second-class citizens, because even a second-class citizen doesn't get killed by a knee in the neck. So instead of treating black folks, African Americans, like people that at least deserve to live, we have police officers who are willing to quit their jobs. So again, we see such hate rearing its ugly head. But if you've been listening to my podcast, if you subscribe to my email called Dose of Positivity, if you've looked at me on Periscope, you know I'm all about love. I'm all about compassion. I'm all about us changing. And I have hope. I'm telling you, I have sincere hope. And I believe that we can get better as a country. The question is when? Is it going to be now? Right now that we have the chance, right now that we have the opportunity, the momentum to make change. Are we going to do that now? Or is it going to be something we're talking about hundreds of years from now when our children's children are trying to fight these same issues? I don't know the answer to that, but I will tell you one thing, and we're going to talk about this more and more through these podcasts. You cannot legislate love. There's no law you can create that can make another person love you. You can't make another race respect you. So what we have to do is look deep within ourselves and figure out, how are we going to create this change, or how can we create the scenario or the platform for change? It will not be through legislation. It will not be through laws. You cannot just simply create a law and hope that the killings will stop, that the disrespect will stop, that the hate will stop, because it won't. But if we begin to set the platform for change where we're at least communicating with each other, being exposed to the human side of life, that's the only way we can create change. So as a glimpse into some of the other podcasts we're going to do, there is hope. And that hope will begin with exposure. We have to be around each other. You have to get to know each other. You have to know that I'm just like you. I bleed like you. I have a family like you. I want to live just like you do. So you have to have that exposure. And then you have to get an understanding of the pain, of the issues, of the problems, of what it's like being an African American in America. What it's like to have the pressure of fighting for your life, sometimes in your community, and other times when you're just simply traveling through this world. Once you can understand that pain, and then, only then, can we then begin to love each other and say, you know what? You're a human being just like me. You deserve to live just like me. That's when we're going to get this real change. But until that point, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue to work and travel in this cycle of disappointment, of hate, of destruction, of killings, of death. And it's all unnecessary. So I want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with the hope. I want to leave you with the fact that we can change. It won't be through legislation. It won't be in a courtroom like mine, but it will be when we decide to expose ourselves to each other, to talk, to learn, to have compassion, and then go back to where it all begins, and that's love. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Again, it's Judge Dawson, the Yogi Judge, and I will be back with another podcast. Hey, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, all those other places so that we can continue to grow together. And go to my website, www.judgedawson.com, so you can subscribe to my email called Dose of Positivity, and we can continue to grow together. All right, till the next time, as I always do, because I am a yogi and a judge, I want you to be careful, be a cycle breaker, and namaste.